situations. All right, so we will call them CICs, the excitation this morning, counterintuitive concepts. And notice when we look at some examples as to what we usually want to do or our intuition tells us to do, is often in life ways that actually go the opposite, and that's the correct way to go, although it will seem to us that that is not the correct way to go, right? And on top of that, we're going to take it a few other examples of connected to this is the way we think about doing things our way and then God's ways, or our perspectives, talking about us as Western people compared to the way Eastern people, the Hebrew, the Jewish people, the Hebrew language, and Eastern nations see things. And they are totally different, which might help us sometimes in our relationships with other people, our respect, and how to love other people, even though they're so different than us. And also, I would suggest that to understand the Bible better and more correctly, we need to adopt and move away from our Western thinking and go to an Eastern way of thinking, especially God's way of thinking, the Hebrew way, the language is, and so forth. You will be amazed as you go along in your journey in the truth. You often take things for granted, and then long after that, you say, that was not even close to what the Bible meant. Sometimes we get something wrong and it helps us. It's better than not knowing anything, but there's a higher way that is a better way and will make our lives richer. Okay, so this is what got me going on this. I want to know from you now that you have to answer. You're on the floor here today in Kempton, you on the hotspot. What is the best strategy to deal with someone tailgating you when you're driving? Now, tailgating means you're driving and there's someone that is right on your tail. The distance between you and the car in the back is just way too small, and this person keeps on driving like that. When you speed up, they'll keep that distance. And you know, if you're in a crowd or someone is walking close to you all the time, you get uncomfortable, right? Especially on driving. Okay, so you have had time now to think. What do you think most people will say? What is the best way to deal with tailgating someone on your tail all the time?
Slow down.
Slam on the brakes.
Brake check. Yes, from the floor here, people exactly people, and that's the intuition we have. We want to give him a fright so that he'll say, "Look, I better back off because I haven't got enough space to brake." And we like just give a slight brake, or we like tap on the brakes to make the brake lights show that this person will back off. Now it has been shown that that does not really help.
No.
That person might brake, but then next block he's back there. Okay. So notice now what you also did by doing that is actually very foolish, because you might one day get a guy that, especially that even on his phone or he's just looking away, and then he does hit you. Okay, so you worry, you feel anxious, you want to be safe, you can't be safe, and that's usually what happens. You know, people say let's brake unexpectedly, so they get scared. Or drive deliberately slower and slower, so we slow them down. Oh, I'll get you back, you know, that type of revenge, that would the slightest thing. Or you can try and signal them in the rear view mirror. That would help. They don't even really notice. How much can you see in the rear view mirror? They try to slow down. Now you're driving more unsafe because you focus off the road. You can open the window and tell them, you know, try and point it in there, please slow down, go back. That's not going to help. The worst thing you can do is stop, get out, and go and confront them through the mirror. Okay, then it's got road rage. Okay, so here's the point. The best two options is to try and pull off the road and let them pass. And immediately say, why must I pull off the road when this person is such a foolish person? Or here's the higher course. This is the best advice someone takes you. I got this from off the net, that's driving schools. You sacrifice. This is the biblical principle. By driving super cautious, more careful, more alert, more smoothly, watching even more ahead of time. Oh, there's a stop street, there's a school coming up, there's children crossing the road. I better slow down more, and stop nicely there so that this person will also stop. And you become super alert and a super driver for this person's sake and yours to keep your situation safe, right? So that you will not cause you or this foolish person any harm. And that is so against our nature. This man is stupid, or woman who's driving, and I'm upset and I want to get them. No, now you got to. Like someone we've come to remember today, Jesus, right? He did everything to show us the example that if we follow that, we will not be in harm. Okay, so that's the lesson. Okay, so the Bible principle is that when we apply this to life, will make us live more spiritually and more successful and significant. So this principle, the world defines it this way: you can't control someone else, so just work on yourself. And that's so true, but it's a biblical principle. Or don't ask for things to be easier. Ask to be better at handling difficult things and situations. People who complain say, I wish there was no taxis. I wish all these taxis wouldn't be impounded. I wish there was no people tailgating me, and so on. I just wish it was a perfect world. Accept the fact that the world's never going to be perfect because human nature and people are moving away from the Christianity and God's ways. It's going to get worse. There's always going to be taxis. So you just ask God, how can I, and you work on how can I become a super smooth driver that if taxis fly by me, I wave and say, have a good day, and I never get upset, and I stay calm, and I just know. I'll be the kind of person that when I approach the crossing at the school, and I see children going across, I say, children get killed here because some taxi is going to come by on the blind side. So I just, for some reason, park halfway across so that the taxi cannot bypass that thing. Who drives like that? No one. Okay, so if we have a lot of people driving like that, the world, the street will be safer for kids, not because there's taxis and they got better, we got better too. Alleviate those situations. So another way is taking the high road. If someone insults you for no reason at all, and it's someone true, Lucas, you're such a lazy person. I can get offended and angry, or I can just say to them, I'm glad you mentioned that. I will look at. Can you tell me why? What did I do? And so I can improve. That's the way. But this is the biblical principle of that. You have to lose your life. I have to lose my life, to give it up, and this life of caring for self, putting myself first, in order to gain life eternal. Jesus said, what good is it for a man to gain everything but you lose your soul? Okay. You have to become a servant, the least, like Jesus, to be the greatest in the kingdom. Can you see it's counterintuitive? Jesus just always did that. He just became servant, gave himself up on the cross so that we can be saved. So you want to be the greatest, then be the least, because then you'll be the greatest in the kingdom. That's not how our human nature works. Always looking out for number one. Right, so here's an example of that. Look at God's perspective versus ours. And I tell you, there's some passages in the Bible I find so ironic. If you look at the image, okay, judge not that you do not be judged. And our human nature is that we're always looking at other people, trying to judge them, put them on a scale, compare them to us, or criticize what they're doing. And that's easy because we all got faults. And we just take their attention away from ourselves. We just briefly look in the mirror in the morning, we go away and forget what we are. But we should not judge other people, because then we will be judged. And notice how whatever you do in God's eyes, it's going to come back to you. If you judge, the judgment you judge with, you will be judged with. And with what measure you meet, it will be measured to you again. So this becomes really scary if you look at the rest of the verse, right? Because the rest of the verse is going to tell you this. We usually have the worst problems, and the problems we have that are the worst for us, we go and pinpoint those in others so that we don't feel so bad. If we continue late, we don't think about it, we don't see ourselves as late, but let the other person come once in a blue moon, coming 5 minutes late. He's not late, he's not disciplined, blah, blah. That's just the way we are. And Jesus says, why do you look at a mote? You know how small a mote is? It's like a little speck of dust almost. Why do you focus on that when in your eye there's a huge beam, a huge piece of wood? Can you imagine trying? Then he says, but you say to your brother, come here, let me help you pull out this little thing. You've got this plank in your eye and you want to help him. You can't even see. And now you want to take something out of his eye. Okay. So you're a hypocrite. We are hypocrites, meaning the Greek word means we put on a mask like an act. And that's the problem. If let's say I'm the person who's continually late always, I can never be on time. I put on a mask and speak to people as if I'm this wonderful person, I'm never late. And then I go criticize someone that's late. Our human nature is really worth changing. Okay. So cast out the beam of your eye, focus on yourself, and then you will see clearly to cast out the mote of your brother's eye. What do you think is good? Jesus actually is not implying here, listen, take out this beam out of your eye, and then you go and take out the mote of that eye. But what do you think will happen by the time you really realize you've got this huge plank in your eye and it's so sore and you can't take it out, someone has to help you take it out. Once you've taken that out, what do you think is going to happen with your perspective about that little speck of dust in your brother's eye? You say it's not a big deal. I'm so good at my eye. I was half blind, almost totally blind. Now I'm not. I'm not going to worry too much about that little bit. You'll figure a way, we'll figure that later. I'm just so focused on myself and compared to what I was and he is, Jesus will fix that easy. Let's pray more to Jesus and let him help and go. Okay, so there's the, can you see how counterintuitive and the examples in the Bible? Okay, the tendency is for us to always focus on other people negatively, to pull them down so we look better. So our eyesight is so hindered that we are actually the ones that are the more guilty, and then we don't see the need to change, unfortunately. Okay. So, and it's difficult to behold the fault in it, but people know you can be all smart and people know and they remember. And then when you speak about it, you know what people say? They don't learn the lesson, don't be like it. They say, are you really saying this? You're the last one to be saying this. You are telling us not to be late and to be disciplined. You lose your credibility. We fool ourselves, but we never fool other people. All right. Look at this one. Have you ever thought of this chapter? There's such interesting things going on here. Jesus said, you ever heard it said of old time, you must not kill, whoever shall kill shall be in danger of judgment. Murder is a bad thing. We're not going to murder anybody because God will judge us. But I say to you, a much higher calling, if you're angry with your brother without a cause, you'll be in danger of God will judge you. Notice there's a progression here, it gets worse, okay? If you're angry with your brother and you don't really have a cause to be angry, it's not good, you will be judged for it. But if you say to your brother, Raka, it's something like you're like a fool, or like you're quite foolish. It's not as bad as saying you're a fool, you're an idiot. Because now you're judging your brother very bad. So if you say to your brother, Raka, it means like a silly person. You'll be in danger of the council. You're in danger of getting in trouble in the church with the elders. Okay. If you say, if you get to a state where you despise your brother and say you're just an idiot, and you judge him like that, remember with what judgment we judge, we will be judged. Okay. In the previous, when we couldn't see and we judge people, we will be judged. God will come and say, look, you're even far worse. Okay. So yeah, if you say you're an idiot, you'll be in danger of hellfire, of destruction in the grave, right? Therefore, now you would have expected the verse to say, so if you come to the altar, like today we come to the emblem, and you remember I called my brother an idiot, I better go and ask him, sorry, I made a mistake, I shouldn't have done that, please forgive me, we reconcile. Do you agree? That's not what the Bible says. What the Bible says, if you come to the altar, you remember that your brother called you idiot. He's got a problem with you. He's tailgating you on your, he's the one in the wrong. Then you have to say, I better go and reconcile with my brother. Why would you do that? Because you know, as long as he's in that state, he will lose his salvation. So we, like Jesus, are going to be the least. This is difficult for me. I'm preaching things here that I don't. Okay? Because if people have harmed me and, you know, and now they on my case all the time and they're trying to harm me, I'll say to them, you know, God will sort them out. I'm here to remember Jesus. No, you got to stop, go there and try and save that brother, reconcile. You leave your gift. And it's kind of interesting that verse 25, 26 could actually be linked to those verses. Because you might not, he's got like something against you, and you know he's the kind of brother that will go to court and really try and annihilate you and just take you to the cleaners. Now you take the initiative and you go there. Before he does something foolish like that, you say, can't we fix this before we take each other to court? So, can you see the Bible's always calling for a higher calling? Our intuition and our ways of looking at things is much different than God and Jesus. Okay. I want to show some interesting things now. In the Western perspective, and that was a problem for me. I wish someone told this to me the day I was baptized. I would solve a lot of difficult issues in my Bible study. We always go step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Linear. One thing following another. Chronological. Step logic, right? The ancient Hebrews don't think like that. They think in blocks. That's why in the book of Matthew that was written to the Jews, that incident with Jesus in the fig tree, it seems to contradict because it just says he cursed it and it withered away, they were amazed. All happened there in once. But in Luke, you don't know, it happened over 2 days. But Matthew writes all the topics in one block. Okay, the whole episode, even though 2 days is recorded as an episode. So in Western step logic, you would say, I got up and ate breakfast, then I read my newspaper, I drove to work. While I was work yesterday, I did my reports, and at noon I walked across the street for lunch. While there, I read a magazine. Then when I was back at work, I read my emails. After work, I drove home and I had dinner, right? How does the Hebrew people say? They say, I drove to work and walked across the street, and then I drove home. It's all about the commuting. I also ate breakfast, ate lunch, and I had dinner. I read the newspaper, read the reports, and read the magazine, and then I read my emails. Just tell you what they did, but they don't actually tell you when they did it. It's in a block of time. Okay. So there's a lot of things in the Bible like that. So we think about contradictions. So look at the creation, for example. We know from a linear perspective, we want to make it that it has to be step 1, step 2, step 3, day 1, day 2, day 3. So the day 1 there was light. We know it's written like in 2 parallel blocks. The first one is the location, what God created, and then the second 3 days, the last 3 days is what He put in those places. Okay, so that's all fine. We know that. There's separating light from darkness. Then day 4, we put these things in the sky. And what do we say? That light that was in day 1 had to be something different because the sun only came in day 4, and we have endless debates about that. Okay. Was it sun or not? Was it the universe light? I don't know. And then when, it just goes on and on. But notice that if you look at these events, then you will see verse chapter 1, verse 4 of Genesis says, God saw the light was good. God separated the light from the darkness. That's first thing. But he says the same in verse 18 of day 4. God said, let there be light, and that separate day from night. And to separate the light from the darkness, the same phrase. So one possibility is that we're talking of 7 different days that God gave. God spoke and it was created. 7 different days that he spoke. But on day 1, he could have said, let there be light. And the second time he spoke, day 2, which is related to day 2, he says, and let that light is the sun. It's going to be sun and moon. So then the light of day 1 and the light, sun and moon could refer to the same thing. There's one possible explanation if you look at the way you looked at it. I'm just leaving that out for you. Okay. 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 In the Western world, notice so interesting. We view the past as behind us, right? And the future is ahead of us. So we see time as like this, that the past is gone behind, and we're moving through time onto the future in front of us. Do you know how the Hebrews view time? The word for yesterday is the root word that comes from in front. Yesterday is in front. The past is in front of you. It's totally different. And the future is in the back. Why? The Hebrew word for tomorrow is in the back. Are these people crazy? No, they're actually right. You know why? Because the past is in front and the future is behind, because they see it from how do you observe things. Observance. When the sun stood still, when Moses had his arm up, it didn't really stand still. Right? It looked, or when the sun comes up, it looks like the sun is orbiting around the earth. It's not true. From observance, it looks like that, and now the Bible describes it like that. But in reality, we are moving around the sun. So how do they say? Well, the past we know, we can see it. It's in front. You can see things in front. You can't see it in the back. The future we can't see. We don't know what it's like. It's in the back still. Okay, interesting. Can you tell me? Give you another example, and then we'll go to the final one, which is the most important. All of you now, look at the boy in the middle on the left-hand picture, and on online people, the people who are in today, and on the right, there's a boy in the middle. Is he happy or sad? And on the right, is he happy or sad? Those of you in the room here that says the boy on the left picture is happy, please put up your hands. Be honest now. What we thought first, put it up. Everyone. Okay. Who of you on the picture on the right, who of you say the boy is happy? What was your first inclination? The boy inclination, the boy is happy or sad? It's like confusing analogy here. Okay, most people are happy? No, he's got the same smile. That's how Western people say it. They took people from America, Canada, Europe, and they asked them this, and they all say the boy on the left is happy, the boy on the right is happy. Eastern people, on average, if you live in China, if you're a Hebrew person, you'll say the boy on the left is happy, the boy on the right is sad. Because Eastern people look at it the right way. They look at the context of everything, and they look at that picture, and they see everyone on that picture on the right is sad, therefore that boy is also sad. They don't fix, they focus on one little central thing. They fix on the greater picture. Okay, so now I want to show you, we're going to end up with this. How does this affect this verse? Behold, a certain lawyer stood up, tempted him, saying, Master, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? Right? Jesus said, what is written in the law? How do you read? Okay, so first, notice here, we need to understand the moral issues of the law. We have to understand the law because Jesus always goes back to what is written. And the large part of your book is the Old Testament and the law of the prophets, right? Lord, he said, you will love your Lord your God with all your heart and with all your strength in your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. I'm quite offended. I would have thought Jesus would say, you must love God, and then you must love your spouse and your daughters and your sons and your family. Where's my family in there? There's just neighbors, the guy next door, right? is how we think as Westerners. Right? And Jesus said, yeah, you spoke right. And then he said, okay, but who's my neighbor? Now, why would he ask a question like that if he's like a Westerner and he's thinking, oh, I know, I must just make sure the guy that's next door, I must love him. Okay. So we know there is a lot more. Western thinking, the definition, if you look on the internet, neighbor is a person living adjacent or nearby. A person situated nearby. How do Westerners look? Anything of the same type or thing as the subject in an adjacent or nearby position. You know, this computer is neighbor to that computer. So what do? It's a matter of location. Where is the person? So if I move, I just get a new neighbor and I have to love him. Thank goodness, because I didn't like the previous one. Now it's easier. Oh, now it's worse. Okay. So, you know, we kind of boil it down to just Jesus said, be nice and kind to the people next door. And even in the parable of the Good Samaritan, we kind of say, okay, we'll make it that next level, but it's not the best level yet, because you were walking and there's a guy in the street and now he's next to you and he's in trouble, he's bleeding and so on. Okay. So we say, okay, well, the person who is the one next door is the one who in certain circumstances has a need or he ran into trouble. Okay. So sometimes circumstances will make my location different and then someone else becomes my neighbor, especially if they have trouble and they've got a predicament. And that is a better way of thinking, I think, but not the most spiritual. Because do you agree, my family, my spouse is not in here yet. Where's Liana? I'm still very worried. Don't you think I should love Liana more than Alex? Don't you think I should love Henry more than Andrew? Because he's my son-in-law. He's married to Diesel. You're not married to anybody. I'm not. Okay, so what's happening here? What about the spouse and your family? So if we go to the Eastern way of thinking, then it becomes quite apparent, right? Jesus takes it to a next step and a higher level with Eastern thinking, and that's what we're going to come to remember today, and that's the calling for us. So I'm going to think about 2 slides on this, right? The neighbor word in Greek is plesion. Plesion. It means to be near, close by. As in your neighbor or your fellow man, countryman. Somebody close. Now, this is the beauty of it, you know. It's not a location. It's a choice, a perspective, a mind thing. Mind matter, a decision you make. Now, we are made that way, and that's the way God made us. Who's closest to me? No, because before I married Diana, my parents were the closest ones, and my brothers, or your brothers, sisters, your siblings. But when you leave home and you cleave unto your wife, you can't be closer than Liana because I'm cleaving unto her. Right? Sorry, you have to just be behind there. You can come and give us a group hug, and then we all eat almost. Okay. And then when you have children, automatically your heart, it's not even a decision, it's a matter of fact, it's just born into you that those people are your closest people to you. You care about them. You don't have to be asked to give your life for them, sacrifice for them, do things for them. You do it because you want to. It's born into your spirit, your sight, right? It's a decision. So who's the closest to you? And this is the calling today. We want to move to a mindset like Jesus, where everyone in the world is closest to us. So that when we do meet them, doesn't matter who they are, and even if they're not really in a predicament, they are our neighbor, and we will love them like we love ourselves. So you move to this idea of spouses automatic, family blood, we care about them. It's automatic that they're the closest to us. But we have to move to further than that other people, like Beatrice, Freddie, Peter, Kathy, anybody when I meet them, my mindset is just, I love them with that same perspective of how I love my spouse. Got that same care for them. I want them to be saved. I'm worried if they're a bit sick. If they're tired, I want to help them. Jesus sat down, he was dead tired, but then all the disciples sat down, he went and washed their feet. That kind of servant to all. It's in this season where we choose in our heart to be close. And if we can get to Jesus' stage, we will be remembering him today. We will be the kind of people who get to some level of sacrificing our life on a cross, not literally, but in lots of ways in our lives, that other people can be saved or be cared for or to be in a better position. So as we remember Jesus now, just try in the future to say, how would Jesus see things? And it's most probably going to be different than the way we think as Westerners. And it will get us to this level of this man that died on a cross, knowing what the future would look like, right? Even if it's behind him, we go forward, backwards into the future, right? And we already know what it's going to look like in that kingdom. So as we remember Jesus today, let's be servants, care for everybody. Everybody's automatically your neighbor, and especially when they come into your presence, you should function in that way. Then we will be like Jesus.